Now many of you may be wondering, how does the carburetor work? Well, today I'm going to show you. Now this is basically the most basic carburetor you're going to get. One barrel. It just has 4 screws holding on the top of the bowl. I mean, there's 3 sections. It's pretty simple. There's your mixture screw and how you set your idle. That's your screw there. So I'm going to take this apart and show you the internals and how everything works. So starting off, you have your 4 screws, and you're just going to get your screwdriver, and you're just going to loosen those and get those 4 screws out. Alright, now I have the 4 screws off. Now I'm going to just take the top of the carburetor off, and here's the internal of the top of your carburetor. So you have your float, your accelerator pump, and a few other small things. I'm going to show you what all those do. Alright, so to show you what this float does, I got some fuel here, and I'm just going to put it in the bowl of the carburetor, and watch as I put fuel in, how that floats. And what that does is right here, that's where the fuel line comes in, and the fuel pump will pump fuel into the bowl, and when this rises, this little plunger here plugs the fuel line so no more fuel can get in the bowl and the carburetor won't flood. Now, like I said, this floats, prevents the fuel from coming into the carburetor. So if I let out this float, then fuel starts coming the opposite direction. But imagine there's a fuel line here and fuel is coming in the carburetor. It does that same thing. It plugs fuel. So when it's up, it stops the flow. When it's down, it lets fuel through. So just imagine that process in reverse. All right, next you got your accelerator pump, this thing. So when you hit the gas pedal, this goes down and it actually pumps fuel through your carburetor. Pump the carburetor a few times. This is why, I replaced this carburetor, but typically when you pump this, fuel would shoot through here. So I can show you on the working carburetor real quick what the accelerator pump is supposed to do. So I was going to try to show you how the accelerator pump works, because when I do this, there's supposed to be fuel that shoots across the carburetor, and apparently this carburetor is deciding to not work. So I wonder if that's some of the starting issues. I don't know. So I might have to take these screws out and take the top of this carburetor off and show you guys. Now here's actually a little demonstration from the 50s, how a carburetor mixes air and fuel and atomizes it.
But liquid gasoline alone won't run an automobile engine. It has to be mixed with free air. This mixing is done on the same principle used in a garden spray gun. When we pump the gun, a rush of air picks up tiny drops of liquid and forces them out the nozzle in a spray or mist. In order to get a fine spray, the nozzle of the spray gun is small. In the automobile engine, this mixing of air and gasoline is done in the carburetor. It begins in a tunnel through which the air sweeps at a speed sometimes as high as 800 miles per hour. This whirlwind races past the mouth of a small tube and carries the droplets of gasoline into the intake manifold and onto the engine. This funnel is called the Venturi tube. It controls the speed of the air. Air has to go faster to get through the small opening. As the air goes faster and faster, it breaks the gasoline into even smaller drops. Now we let in more air and further thin out the mixture until we get the correct proportion for power and economy. The up-to-date carburetor is a higher development. There are float chambers to regulate the fuel supply, different jets for various speeds, Venturi rings for better mixing, metering pins, throttles, needle valves and chokes for control and economy. All the features that engineers have designed with great care to make sure of economical results. But the principle is still the same. The carburetor has but one purpose, and that is to mix a little drop of gasoline with a great big bubble of free air.
Alright, so that's the basics of how a carburetor works. I just wanted to show you guys that because that just shows how important the accelerator pump is, and that's why I'm taking apart the carburetor to get that to work again. And now, later in the video, there was also something about how much air to fuel a carburetor uses. So I'm going to include that after this clip so you can watch that too.
Let's see just how much air is actually used in the modern automobile. We'll take all the air that goes into the carburetor from this big balloon and the gasoline from this tube. The balloon holds 15 cubic feet of air, and the tube contains only 3 tablespoonfuls of gasoline. Here's a race that's worth watching. A race to see how much gasoline we need while using enough air to run our car 1/4 of a mile. There goes the last of the air, and the race is over. We've gone just exactly 1/4 of a mile. But look, we still have some of the gasoline. Less than 3 tablespoonfuls of gasoline to travel 1/4 of a mile. In fact, 1 tablespoonful of gasoline is mixed with about 43 gallons of air to make the fuel for the modern motor car. Progress, through constant improvement, has reduced fuel consumption importantly, taking advantage of every opportunity to burn less gasoline and use free air.
Alright, so I'm going to try to take these screws off to see what's going on, because I went through this carburetor like a month ago, but, you know. Okay, so like I showed you guys, this is the bowl, prevents fuel from coming in the fuel line. Then, whatever accelerator pump, I'm not able to push down. So there's something blocking it down there. So I'm gonna check that out. Okay, never mind. It was just the linkage of the car to push that down with the carburetors on. But it's still not pumping. So I'm gonna, I believe this is a bleeder screw, because I loosened this last time and it bled and then started to work just fine. So I'm gonna, hopefully this will work. Oh yeah, look at that. And fuel shoots across. So I'm gonna tighten this and then put it back together. All right, now I'm just gonna put this lid back on, which is gonna be interesting because it kind of pushes up and I have to get the screws on. It's not hard, it's just, so I'm gonna get that on real quick. All right, so I think what might have caused that is I ran the car with the fuel pump not on like a little while back, and it ran the bowl dry and then dried out that accelerator pump and whatever. Anyway, so now that's hopefully fixed. Now let me show you guys. If you see when I move the gas pedal, fuel shoots across like it's supposed to. So, there you go. All right, now back to the actual carburetor, how it works. Like I showed you, float. Now you know how the accelerator pump works. It pumps to here, and then it shoots across the, whatever the barrel, and then shoots down the barrel, goes into the intake down here, and then the intake splits into 3, and then there's 2 cylinders per intake thing. And that fuel and air mixture goes into the cylinders, ignites with the spark plugs, and there you go, you have a running engine. As long as you have compression, Anyway, then this screw here, you turn one way or another to adjust how much fuel is getting put into the carburetor at idle and different speeds, whatever. And then this is how you adjust your idle. So this rests on this thingy here. And then the more that's screwed out, the more this is up, the more throttle it gives. The more this is down, the less throttle it gives. So, and that's really your idle and mixture there. And if you're wondering how I found out a lot of that information, it's this book. Like, anytime someone asks me what's the first thing you recommend doing when buying a car at a restore, get the service manual, because it has everything you need. So it's like the carburetor. I already knew most of this stuff, but I'm going to show you guys. Fuel and exhaust system, 119. So I go to 119, then it says right there, carburetor, 122. So I go to 122, and there's all your information about the carburetor. That shows you how the jets work and everything there. So first thing to do when you're restoring a car, or you need to know this information, a lot of it you can't find online, get the service manual. Like, here's some cool information, or nice information just to have. You know, it says set the speed and then the mixture, so you want to set the idle, then mixture, and there's a bunch of ways how to do that. And then just like this winter setting, or you know, summer settings, which, you know, temperature, your climate you're in, that's how you want to set your carburetor. And then just things about jets and how to test things. So, you know, just really helpful information. All right, so now I've shown you how the float works, how the accelerator pump works, and now this is the step-up piston, which basically just helps with vacuum and mixture and some different things. So there's little parts matter in a carburetor. You know, it's not a huge part, but it helps with vacuum and mixture. And this helps with fuel, or how much is in the bowl, and then this helps how much goes into the engine. Alright, so the next part of the carburetor, you know, there's the 3 layers, the top, the bowl, and then this bottom part. Helps with just some different things. So like I was saying about the winter and whatever settings on the carburetor, so the different settings, like right now if I were to have it on winter setting, it'd be fully closed. And then if I were having it on the middle, spring setting, it'd be right about there, and then summer setting, a little open. Just temperature of there and how much air and mixture, and just helps with some stuff like that. Now I have the carburetor all torn apart here, and here's basically the 3 parts. You got the bowl, you got the top and bottom, you know, they all have their own purposes. I explained that earlier in the video. You have your gaskets, and I mean, that's about all. You got your floats. I mean, that's a simple 1-barrel carburetor. This is as simple as you're going to get. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on stuff and things. You know what to do. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.